He had been following the river upstream since midday, working the pools where salmon rested before their final push toward spawning grounds. And that was the day the fog rolled in thick as wool and left him standing on the boundary between worlds, saved by a watcher he did not know he believed in. The old men said the river kept two kinds of spirits, the ones that lured and the ones that kept watch. The Kushtaka took what wandered too near the water. The Tlin-akeni came only when the balance broke. Keet met them both the day the fog rolled in thick as wool. The morning had been clean. They were eagle people on Ravenland, fishing a stream their clan stewarded since before memory. 4 men fishing together, brothers and cousins, working different stretches of the river. The young man, Keet, maybe 24, had taken the eastern fork where his grandfather had taught him the best pools were hidden. His cousins' voices carried across the water as they called out catches and landmarks. The river spoke constantly, water over stone, a language he'd known since childhood. Then the weather turned. Not gradually. One moment gold and green and ordinary light. The next, fog rolled in from the ocean like something living, thick and gray, and smelling of cold salt and drowned things. It swallowed landmarks. The temperature dropped. His cousins' voices grew muffled, distorted, then stopped altogether. The silence that followed was wrong, complete. Even the river's voice seemed muted. He touched the copper cuff on his wrist. Old, smooth, warm, even as the cold pressed in. His mother had pressed it on him years ago, lifting it from coals with tongs, her face grave, saying nothing that explained and everything that told him to wear it. Always. The fog thickened until he could barely see his own boots. The light shifted, becoming gray and flat and directionless. He took a step and the ground felt uncertain beneath him. His sense of up and down wavered. He marked his path, made a knife notch on bark, the blade biting deep enough to bleed sap. Tied cedar fiber at knee height where the path forked. He let his boots remember the land, even as his head started to drift, thoughts becoming sluggish. The copper cuff began to burn against his wrist, not metaphorically, actual heat. He pressed his other hand to it and felt the metal scalding his palm. The pain helped, gave him something real. That's when he saw the tracks. Otter slides striped the granite, long burnished chutes down wet stone. Fresh. Water still beaded on the rock. But something about them was wrong. Too clean, too perfect. He crouched to examine them closer. The otter prints at the bottom were clear. 5 distinct toes, webbing between them. Claw marks at each tip. But as he watched, the prints changed. It happened slowly, horribly, like meat liquefying in summer heat. The webbing melted away. The pads stretched, flattened. The claws shortened, became blunt. The shape elongated, widened at the heel, formed an arch that was unmistakably human. Water began to seep from the transformed prints. Not river water, something thicker, darker, that smelled of rot and old drowning. Bare feet, walking toward the black water. His hand found the copper cuff again, squeezed until the metal bit into his palm. Then he heard the child. A small cry. Not far away. Hiccuping the way little ones do when trying to be brave. The sound slipped between his ribs like a blade, pulled at something primal. A child needs help. There were no children in the fishing party. He knew that the way you know your own name. The nearest village was miles downstream, but the cry was so clear, so heartbreakingly real. He stood, his legs moving before his mind could engage. The fog seemed to part ahead of him, creating a path.
Hello?
His voice fell flat, swallowed by the gray.
Where are you?
The hiccuping stopped. Then, rising from somewhere ahead, a woman's voice, his mother's voice. The exact timbre, the specific way she shaped his name when she was worried.
Where are you, my son?
Strained, low, urgent.
I need you. Cross the water. Come to me.
His feet were already moving. Following the voice through salal and moss-covered boulders, toward where the black water slid over slime-covered rock. The pressure began building in his skull then, weight pressing against his thoughts from the outside in, like invisible fingers reaching into his mind and pulling, reshaping, drowning his will. He forced himself to stop, to look at his hands. His grandmother's rule: count your fingers, mind your breath, look at what you can touch when the woods begin to pull at what you think. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He named each finger aloud, his voice shaking. The pressure eased slightly. He took out his tinder, birch bark kept dry in a grease-stained scrap, and nursed a spark with trembling hands. The small flame guttered, nearly died, then caught. The fog thinned around the light, just slightly. But the voice came again. Not his mother this time. His uncle. The laughing rumble he'd known since childhood, warm and easy and familiar as home.
It's just me, lad. Come on.
A chuckle, perfectly rendered, down to the slight wheeze at the end.
The fishing's good right here. We've been waiting. Your cousins are here. We've all been waiting for you.
The illusion was perfect, terrifying in its intimacy. He could picture his uncle's face, the way he smiled with one corner of his mouth higher than the other. The young man pressed the copper cuff to the flame, held it there until the metal seared his skin. The pain was white-hot, clarifying. He counted his fingers again through gritted teeth. The child's laughter came then, not joyful, never joyful. Sweet, but with something underneath. A high, thin note like wire drawn across bone. A whistle that wasn't quite wind, wasn't quite breath. Almost like a bark caught in a human throat. The sound made his teeth ache, made the air in his lungs feel metallic, heavy. He lifted his eyes. A man stood at the shelf's lip where black water slid over slime-covered rock. For a heartbeat, just one, relief flooded through him. The shoulders were right, broad, strong, the exact slope and width of his older brother's frame. The stance was familiar, weight on the back foot, one hand raised in greeting. Then he saw the face. It held. The features sat correctly. Eyes, nose, mouth. But the proportions were wrong, as if someone had carved a mask from memory and missed the last cuts. The skin had the sheen of wet riverstone, catching the fog-filtered light wrong. As he watched, the face slipped. The pupils swelled until they ate the whites. The mouth stretched too far back. Then it reassembled itself, his brother again. Almost. When it smiled, he saw the teeth, small. Many, even. Rows of them, sharp and white, receding into dark. Kóoshdaa Káa, Kushtaka. The river thing that lures with voices you trust and takes you under until you are not yourself. Cousin, it said, in a woman's voice he loved, his favorite aunt. Then his uncle's rumble, then his brother's laugh. Under each wrote a thin, whistling note that made his jaw ache. The voices overlapped, weaving a chorus of familiar love and trust. Then the child again.
Please don't leave me. I'm so cold. The water's so cold. Help me.
The pressure behind his eyes thickened. His thoughts slowed. He fought to remember his name, his village, his mother's real face. Part of him stepped toward the edge, wanting to reach out to help. The copper cuff burned like a brand. He pressed it harder to the flame. Pain held him in place. He bent to the small fire, counted his fingers, said his name aloud 3 times. The thing glided forward, too smooth for land. Close enough now to smell it, river mud, old salmon, and a sweet, wrong note like breath held under cold water. Another step toward the deepest lip. Human feet but wrong, toes too long, mottled skin, each step leaving a dark print that hissed on stone. Come to the water. Come see. Come home. We're waiting. He knew then he would die here. The river would take him, or he'd walk out years later with a smooth stone smile. It showed all those teeth and moved again. Then the fog parted. He felt the impact before he understood it. Stone shuddered, a weight landing, precise and alive. Its dog feet set first, splayed toes gripping wet rock, claws whispering as it stepped between him and the thing at the water's edge. Digitigrade legs built for running, shoulders thick with work, pelt dark as wet slate, taller than any man he knew. Its presence pushed the fog back. The air changed. It turned and met his eyes. Clear. Impossibly clear. Ice over deep water. Something older than animal looked out, and his bones recognized it. Those eyes took his measure in a heartbeat, how close he stood to danger, whether he could hold his place, and then fixed hard on the thing at the edge. Tlin-akeni. The word rose from deep memory. Dog people. Guardians. Warriors from the interior lands who walked between worlds and fought the things that hunted humans. In modern tongues, they'd say Dogman. Their family kept the older name. Real. Standing between him and death, holding the line that should not be crossed. The Kushtaka's outline crawled like oil on water, smile widening to show more teeth. The girl's voice came sweeter, more desperate.
Please, I'm drowning. I'm so scared.
A thin whistle rode beneath, making the air shiver. The Tlin-akeni made a sound, low, resonant, felt in bone. A warning, a challenge, a promise. It eased its weight, sliding one step to the side, angling its body so the only open path ran upslope, away from water, away from him. The boundary was being held. Pressure spiked behind his eyes. He almost dropped the flame. Almost stood because the child was crying and his mother was calling. He bent to the heat and counted fingers until the pressure loosened. The Kushtaka lunged. They hit like thunder. The guardian's shoulder caught it clean and turned it from the wet ring, driving it sideways on the slick rock. The wire note knifed the air. His eyes watered. The Kushtaka twisted, form stuttering. Otter, human, neither, trying to find a shape that could slide past. The Tlin-akeni's grip held, not paw and not hand, but something that closed with purpose and would not give. The river thing raked, dark streaks opening in the slate pelt. The guardian did not roar. It set its weight and worked. A step taken with care dragged the struggle a pace upslope, away from the drop. The Kushtaka flowed low, trying to slide back toward water. It snapped with all those even teeth. The guardian turned its head and the bite glanced off the heavy fur. He pressed hot copper to skin. The sting climbed his arm and snapped the fog in his head. The Kushtaka recoiled as if the air itself had bitten it. The guardian used the flinch, shifting its stance, driving the river thing another pace uphill. Stone grated under claws. Breath steamed. The whistle tightened, then wavered. The Kushtaka gathered itself for one last drive toward the edge. The guardian met it, set, and broke its balance. Not a throw so much as a refusal, a quiet denial of direction that sent the river thing staggering into salal and fern instead of down into the black. It caught itself, came up in a crouch that was not any shape he knew, and in that instant he saw its hunger without the borrowed faces. Then it fled, not with dignity, not with threat. It went like something that had gambled for a soul and lost, sliding into the fog toward deeper water, smaller with every step. The child's cry cut off. The whistle died. The river spoke like water over stone again. Silence fell hard. He sat frozen, blood drying under his nose. Thought returned all at once, like a fever breaking. The copper cooled. It was only copper again. The Tlin-akeni stood at the shelf's edge, shoulders working, pelt wet, a dark line of blood matting its fur. But it stood, upright, victorious, holding the boundary. It turned its head, and those ice-clear eyes found him once more. It looked at him, truly looked, and he understood without words. The boundary holds, remember, carry this. The moment held, then broke. The Tlin-akeni turned and walked into the forest, not crashing, not vanishing, just a purposeful gate of something done with its work, concluding its presence in the fog. When he could stand, he saw the tracks. Dog prints, large and clean, angling upslope. He followed. 50 yards on, the toes drew closer. The pad lengthened, claw marks faded. By the time campfire glow smeared the fog, the prints were boots, his size. They found him at the clearing's edge as full dark settled. A dog barked twice, sharp, urgent, straining at its tether before his brother called his name with relief. He was muddy, scraped, nose bloodied, one ear ringing, but alive. They didn't laugh. An elder warmed the copper and pressed it back over his wrist. Another drew smoke over him and blew it toward the trees.
What took you?
His brother asked quietly.
The fog.
He said. True.
The river.
He added later. Also true. When they'd eaten, he told what he'd seen, using the old words his grandmother had taught him. No one told him he was wrong. They slept in turns. Near dawn, he woke to soft footfalls beyond the perimeter, heavy and deliberate, and a low huff like something checking the wind and finding all in order. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe it was his heart finding a steadier pace. Or maybe it was the Tlin-akeni, still watching, still keeping the boundary. He set his wrist on his chest, felt the copper's weight, and slept again. Years later, 50 of them, maybe more, the young man, now an old man, told his grandson the story on a December night when the dark pressed at the windows like the forest testing the house. His name was Keet. He told it spare and exact. The fog, the tracks that became feet, the child's cry with the whistle under it, the Kóoshdaa Káa with the wrong smile and too many even teeth, the Tlin-akeni from the old stories stepping between worlds to stand the line for a boy who didn't know he needed standing for. Keet said what the years had taught him. The world is layered. Some places are boundary places. Some beings keep watch whether we see them or not. He touched the copper cuff, still warm from his skin, and told his grandson to remember the signs and to carry the story forward. Have you been pulled back from the edge by something you know does not exist? If a dogman chose you, at a river, in deep forest, in the places where the worlds overlap, DeadNet Studios is here to bring your story to light. Send your encounter to deadnetstudios@gmail.com. Together, we bear witness to the moments when the impossible chooses to intervene, and remind us that sometimes the protectors in the dark are the ones keeping watch.
Stories wildly untamed. With the video's end, we take a little rest. They find the shackles every best.